You're listening to the Real Estate Radio Hour, the show that brings you unfiltered stories and insight from the Twin Cities real estate world with your hosts, Chris Rooney, broker at RE/MAX Preferred, and Andy Presky, leader of the Preferred Home Team at RE/MAX Advantage Plus.
Hey.
Good morning. Good morning. I know I got sun in my eyes here. Well, that's all right. We'll go with it.
Beautiful.
Lost my voice a little.
Yeah?
Just a little. Been talking a little too much lately. But that's okay. So we're waiting for Andrew to show up here.
Yeah.
Which he will soon.
We changed the date on him, so obviously it's a little tough doing a Friday one instead of a Thursday one.
Yeah, Thanksgiving. We didn't really think about that last week. Kind of just react. So kind of moved the show from Thursday to Friday, Black Friday.
Deals.
Actually, there's some deals in real estate too.
What
I should say I don't call them deals. I call them value, because I think deals means that it's cheap versus value means it's seeing what the value is worth and getting a good bargain because of that.
You're seeing that right now in the market in Minnesota?
Yes, for sure. A lot of good values out there to be had. I know some of the new construction's even going down, which is kind of interesting to me because I just don't think they're maybe in the lower portion. They're in that position, but they're doing a lot of interesting things with financing to be able to help people out to get in that are worried about these initial interest rates, and I think that's what they are. I don't think they're super long lasting, and when I mean long lasting, I don't think it's going to be years and years and years of it. So I think you just got to deal with it for a few years, and like I said, you can get some values, and we talked about different things a while ago where maybe your payment's up $500 a month, but if you look at that, and that's $6,000 over a year, $30,000 over 5 years, and if you're getting a value of $40,000 off, you're still ahead of the game, and you're not fighting other people to be able to get the house that you want. So there's some positives in the market that we'll keep it going. But we are in a time that typically is a slow time. This is the slow time. The last couple of years have been anomalies. That doesn't happen that often, but typically between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and even leading up a little to Thanksgiving and maybe a little hangover after Christmas, the market slows down.
Yeah. I actually have a video here relating to what you're speaking on. I found this guy. He's been doing a lot of good things with the Instagram Reels and real estate. So let's check this out.
Okay, guys, so watch to the end of this video, and I'm going to prove to you why this market is so impatient. But look at this. Mortgage rates dropped faster this week than any time in the last 40 years, from 7.08 to 6.6. That's $100 less on a mortgage payment than this time last week, and it's $12,000 more worth of buying power. Now, how impatient is this? Despite recent dip in mortgage rates, uncertainty stalls the U.S. real estate market. It's been literally days. How in the world is the market supposed to turn on a dime? Listen, everything from here on out for the next 10, 20 years is going to be slow. Every little movement, even the shift right now, happened in slow motion. Nothing's going to just bounce back or change in a matter of a week. Even what we're going through right now took months and months and months for this to change, guys. Be patient.
Big time. Patience is key, and really, if you think about it, I mean, everyone's like, oh my gosh, I better grab that rate right now, or geez, I better hold off a little on the rate. I mean, even if it's $100 a month, I mean, put it in perspective. People, to put your whole life on hold for $1,200 a year, or what, $5,000 after 5 years or 4 years, it's silly. On this stuff. And I think that's what people just need to understand. But I think where market stall is consumer confidence more than interest rates. They just want to know where things are going and where they're headed, where jobs are headed. I mean, if they're going to have a job, are they nervous about not having a job? I heard it yesterday at Thanksgiving, and people are like, well, geez, I don't know. Maybe you shouldn't do that because Not sure what the industry is going to do. Yeah, I'm not one of those guys. So
Well, speaking about that, I mean, obviously you've had experience in history, and we're kind of dedicating this to in memory of Phil Rooney, who was kind of a pioneer in south of the river real estate. So you've been through all these different type of markets. I mean, what do you notice from like the past, or maybe when Phil was doing business compared to now? And can we take that information and see what's going to happen here in the future?
yeah, well, my excuse me, my mom was licensed first, and so that was, I think it was in 1967, almost 1968, making me 1 years old, and then Dad was basically right after that. And so people know, my dad passed away last week. We just had the funeral on on Wednesday, and so but it was cool. We got to talk about a lot of different things, and one of them was real estate. And he had a passion. He had a real passion for real estate, but it was a totally different time back then. And I just think, they obviously didn't have the tools and all the knowledge and everything that we have today. But if you can imagine dealing with, we're talking about these interest rates and being 6.6% is holy hell. Yeah, look at that. So from, even from almost 1990, they were over 10%, upwards of in the early 80s, 18%. But I think the one thing that didn't happen back then, Nick, was exactly what that guy was that was just talking. He was like, this is what the media is doing. They didn't have the media back then, and the media wasn't stoking this, fear in everyone and manipulating them and how they wanted them to live. And so it was one of those things that I think for yourself, you were trying to decide, boy, is this the right thing to do or is it not the right thing to do? But that's interesting. Put that chart back up, because I really felt that was, so it was around late 70s, early 80s. Yeah, that was the whole, yeah. Because I thought we really felt it. I remember when I graduated, my dad and mom started building houses. I graduated in 1985 from high school. So the last couple of years of high school, they started building houses. And I remember their loans were like 15, 16% that they were doing. And so it was tough getting people, but it also came back to people started understanding, hey, I do need a place to live. Your home is where you hang out a lot of the time, most of your time, and you should enjoy it as well. And so some people, you have to pay for that to be able to enjoy it. But they also figured out different ways in which to be able to get past those things. And a big thing was contract for deeds. A lot of people back then did contract for deeds. And what that means is that typically is that someone has to finance it. It's usually the owner would finance the house for you based on what their interest rate was previously. So when those rates were 14, 16%, some people had loans from, mid 70s that would say they're 8%. And so the sellers would go out there and say, you know what, I'll do a contract for deed. You put 10 or 20% down and I'll give you an interest rate at 8%. And so that's how they fought it. I still see that coming here, even though we have a thing what's called due on sale clause. And a due on sale clause, what that means is that if you pay off your mortgage, or I should say, if you sell your home, that you have to pay off your mortgage. And so a lot of our mortgages right now have that clause. So you have to kind of work past it. And it's not, check with your tax and legal advisors, but you'd have to, try to make a deal with the bank on that, or just try to get past it with them. And, people now could turn around and sell their house. Maybe they've got a 3% interest rate. Maybe they could sell it at a 5% interest rate, still beat the rates by, a percent or two, and not only make money on their money, but be able to get a buyer that's going to come through and give them an advantage by giving them that interest rate. So it makes your house look better.
You think there'll be ever a time again it goes over 10%, the rates?
I doubt it. I think there's just too much pressure now on people. I mean, the media would go berserk and people would go crazy on Twitter. And, I just don't think now everyone's held a little more accountable, I hope. But back then you just didn't know and you just were kind of at the mercy. And I think the less people knew, it was probably better for them actually. Now people are finding out too much and figuring it out and getting videos like that guy's doing right there and starting to kind of make people question what the heck's going on.
I got a couple more from him actually. So let's keep playing this.
Now, when Billy here wrote this article, do you think he was thinking about you or how many clicks he can get? No buyers in sight? 52% of all listings that are selling right now are going at or above list price. We're down 30% in transactions this year, which means 70% of the same amount of buyers are buying from this time last year. Last year was a banger. And if you think prices are going to fall 25%, heck, we're already down over 10% right now. So we're going to go down another 10%. Ooh, I'm scared, Billy.
It's so true. I mean, there's a perfect example when he was talking about clicks. I mean, you look at some of these and we've had them too. I mean, to be able to all of a sudden it gets thrown up there and it's like, oh my gosh, there's half the realtors in America are not paying their rent, and it's that's not what it is. It's a joke. They think that the real estate companies aren't paying their rent. I mean, the commercial market's going to destroy. But what's saying is that the realtors, which is usually always this way, they have to pay to play. So they usually have to pay to work at where they're at, and they weren't paying their rent to the broker, which is not unusual at all. That might have been a 10% flux on it, but it's just like they're throwing in it. 40% of the realtors haven't done it. Well, 30%, even during the great times, realtors weren't paying it. And a lot of times brokers let them get away with it because they're like, hey, if they sell a house next month, we'll end up getting paid. And so you kind of roll the dice. So
you think the mass hysteria has really hit the real estate industry relating to social media? People are just trying to get everyone's emotions up and clicking?
I think you try to click on anything. I mean, there's elections, there's politics, there's whatever it is, there's shootings, mass shootings, there's real estate, whatever's high at the time, people are going to try to capitalize on it. And then, but that does curb consumer confidence. It's what people believe. And if they believe that the market stinks, they're going to stay away from it and hold back. But the one thing that we have in the market, it's this very stable market. There's not much inventory. And when there's not a lot of inventory, people can just hang tight. And that's what we've been doing. We've been hanging tight and getting the price that we want, because people think they can come in if it hasn't sold in 2 days, that they can get it for 100,000 less. That's just not the case. It's not happening that way. Now there's some deals. We've gotten some deals for our buyers that are really good, but those sellers were in situations that they had to do it. So regardless of what the market was, the last market, they could have probably capitalized on all those different people, but they wanted out. It wasn't that, hey, that the value is just falling. They're like, we just want out. We got to go. We have other things that we want to do and be able to do, and just want to end this and move on. And that's where you can get a deal. That's how deals come about. So, but you got to find the right opportunity.
Well, going back to the Phil and what was the issues that he had, and then because he kind of did some real estate in the new age, with the computers and whatnot. What was he saying? The big differences were the pros and the negatives from back in the day to now. What was he saying?
I think we'll just call them the old timers, the Phils and those people that were licensed. I would say in the 70s and 80s that were licensed, they didn't have all the technology, obviously, until probably mid 90s. But the other thing that happened was it's just like you can go on the internet and find any listing there is. Well, before that was all of our information. We had that. And you as the consumer had to come to us. And everyone was super afraid when that happened that the buyers would just go, right to the owner. And so when we shared that information and took it from just ours, where we had it in a little book, and Nick had to call me so I could take him around and show him these houses, all of a sudden now they're out on the internet and everyone can see them.
Yeah.
And I think that was more of a, I don't know, in their mind, it was like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do now? It maybe fought back differently than rather than embracing it. You know, they almost like fought it. Like
Well, they were like gatekeepers, right? That's what they're
yeah,
basically doing. Yeah.
yeah. So they wanted to keep that information. But in reality, once people had the information, it made our job a lot less or a lot more streamlined. Because rather than us, I mean, because I worked in those times before the computer yet, before we released all that information, and we obviously needed the internet to be able to get that information released. But before that happened, we would have to show people houses a lot. Now when people go look at houses, they cruise online, they see which ones they like. We maybe go see one or two. They eliminate all the bad ones. That's why it's so important what you put on that MLS. People don't get that. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, I got to do a funny reel. I got to do a Facebook post. I got to do this and that. What you got to do is you got to make your listing look good online, because MLS takes it and then shoots it out to everyone. But we used to, I mean, no question, we would probably at least have 3 to 5 days of showings, and 7 to 8 houses a day, to be able to try to get them to kind of understand what the market is. The internet now gets you to understand. You can look at them right in a row and say, oh, that one's 500, 520, 515, 530. All right, that's the market. Before, we had to show them 20 houses so they could see them and kind of dissect them and feel it out and say, okay, what's it worth? And then you start buying. So our process was really pushed out back then, and it's just gotten a lot better. But if you don't deal with that and you don't know that, and you've never worked on a computer or didn't even see one in high school or college, if you went, you were kind of a little adverse to going that route. They had a book and they had it in the front seat of their car and they'd just drive around. That was the other thing. Old days. I mean, my dad knew every street there was. He knew every single street. He was like a pizza delivery man because he knew that. And I remember him telling, that was one of the things that I really kind of took from him. He said, just when you're not doing anything, just keep driving around. Figure out what the streets are, because people are going to say, you know what, there's one on Huron. And you think, where the hell's Huron? You got to know where Huron is. You got to be able to drive there and meet someone there. And the other thing that was different is that they were in your car. They were not driving and meeting you there. Everyone jumped in the car, in the realtor's car, and we drove around and we went and looked at all these houses. And so, because when we had a bunch of them, it was a whole day kind of a thing. So it was a lot different. I think how you sold to people was different. I had talked about in that eulogy the different things with him of, like what his sales words were. Oh, you'll never see another place like this. I've never seen one like this. This is unbelievable. You better hurry because it's going to sell fast. All of those type of things were, common phrases back then where people didn't know if they were going to sell quick or not. Now they know. They can see it right live in front of them and look at it at 2 a.m. That's why I always tell realtors now, I said, you have to remember, these buyers know that market, the market they're looking in, they know it better than you. And they're all like, what? There's no way. Like myself, I work in Prior Lake all the time. But I'll tell you what, I don't concentrate for the last 3 months looking at everything in Prior Lake that's sold or is on the market between 300 and 325. Those people have, and they've been watching, they know everything about it. And so they know that market better than I have. So I've got to know the whole market better. What it used to be is that, you know what, nobody knows about these listings, so I can pretend I know more than them. So
you think in the past, the realtors were way more car salesmen and not as respected in the industry,
yeah, I don't know. I don't know if not more respected, but I would definitely say more car salesy from what I remember. I remember first getting into the industry, and that just wasn't who I was. It just wasn't that guy. And I was big into I got to know what I'm talking about because I don't want to look stupid. And I ended up, and my dad encouraged me too, to talk to some of the younger realtors that were, kind of cutting edge and moving into technology and stuff. And I started learning from them and looking at how they handled themselves and what they did versus, what I grew up with. And kind of took a little of those pieces. And I think that's the one thing, biggest thing probably that I learned from my dad is being able to, represent your client ferociously, go after that client and represent them and work in their best interest. I think that was the biggest thing that I got from him that I took over. Then I took bits and pieces from a lot of different people to kind of do what I do now today.
Beautiful. Let's get into some of these listings. I think we're going to go over current ones you guys both have listed, so you might have to sell some of Andy's too. And
where is Andy?
I think he didn't get the memo. We went different day.
He went to sleep. Okay, well, I'm not doing his. Show some of mine. I'll do mine.
We'll do the commercial first. So it's brought to you by Chris Rooney Home Experts.
Okay.
I was just 1 year old when my family started in real estate, where both my parents were agents. They also dabbled in investing in real estate, rentals, flips, and construction. After college, I went right into getting my license in July of 1990. As a 23-year-old agent in an industry that looks nothing like today, I had to know more for my clients to choose me. There wasn't Zillow or social media to tell them how good I was. I had to win them over with knowledge. With knowledge comes confidence, and with confidence comes results.
That's interesting because that whole this one's already sold. That one's sold off market, Mr. Nick, right there.
Oh, the Fairlawn one?
Got that off. Yeah, that was knowing from a client and networking with the other agents and being able to get that before that even went on the market for. You can see it's $2.5 million. That's on the lake. That's a case of just knowing the market, and what that market's willing to be able to bring to you. And we got that on. See that nice little pending thing there? It's cute.
I'll get the other one. Hold on.
There's another one we have. Literally, we have another one just right down the street.
Yep, I think I found it. Perfect.
So I've been fortunate to get a lot of lifestyle type listings and stuff, and so lakeshore, acreage, townhome living, things that become a lifestyle. I mean, if you live on the lake, you're going to pay for it, and but it's a lifestyle, and it's something that really you can't explain unless you live on it. So this house right here, I think what's interesting about this one is we've had real good opportunities of things selling in and around that $2 million mark now on the lake. And so if you get a walkout rambler that's on the lake, in this case, there's 150 feet of lakeshore. So they've got a ton of extra lakeshore. You can see it goes over to those pine trees on the right-hand side. And this has got a back deck as well, but it sits on the big part of the lake, which is Lower Prior Lake. And you can see it's a walkout rambler, but it's a more kind of a mid-century kind of feel. So kind of low roof lines, but lots of windows, got a huge deck on it. For the most part, this place is, again, it's on a perfect location, but you can see right there, there's a great example, is that what's interesting about it, it becomes a lot more private because it sits down off the road a little bit. So to the right of this photo is the main drag, which that other house we saw, the pending one, is on, but it sits on there, and they've got this really nice pavered driveway that kind of gradually goes down and then into the garage. But what it allows, which doesn't happen a lot on the lake, is that you get privacy. And getting privacy on the lake from the front is very rare. It's very rare. In this area as well, you can park on both sides of the street. And that's a lot of things that people don't think about when you're on the lake. But a lake is a lifestyle. You usually have friends and people over. So you want them to be able to park somewhere. There's a lot of places on the lake that you can't park even on the street, and or sometimes it's only on one side of the street. So here you got both sides of the street. You got a huge driveway, all fully landscaped. They put about 200,000 into landscaping here. And then as we go into the house, if you can skip into some of those pictures into the house, you'll see it's pretty so you'll see it's pretty updated. It's got the the cherry floors and the alder woodwork. The paint, now okay, so here's when we're talking a deal or value, here's where it is. And so, these paint colors, I mean, if you look at them, they're probably, about 2006 colors is what I would call them. But if you can imagine and seeing this, is be able to switch that. I mean, it changes the whole house and the whole feel of it. And even when you do like a red here and a tan here, if it's all one, it becomes bigger. There is a fireplace that sits in the middle of the home. That's a lot of the mid-century type houses had that, where they have the big center two-sided fireplace that sits in the middle, but it does sit in the middle. And so some people might not enjoy that, but look at this high-end kitchen. I mean, it's Wolf Appliances, Sub-Zero refrigerator. It's got all the makings of a house that's going to be in the 2 to 2.2 million, but it's listed at $1,795,000. Just little things to be able to do to it, to be able to kind of get it to that value. So that to me is a value. We've got it priced right for what it is, but for a couple changes, you create this huge value of a home. 150 feet on Lower Prior Lake, 4,600 square feet walkout Rambler. I mean, I just sold a Rambler down the street that had 3,800 square feet, sold it for $2 million. Had another one that was 3,900 square feet, sold it for $2.1 million. So you can kind of see where when I'm talking about this whole value thing, because for the most part, this place is totally updated. There's just little things that it needs to be able to kind of hit the next round.
Beautiful. So there's another one too, preserve.
You're gonna make me keep talking.
Uh-oh.
There he is. There's my man.
Hey.
Morning.
My turkey. Okay, first of all, we're doing some listing talk here, but what I want to hear from you, because this is always the highlight. What'd you do with the turkey yesterday?
Well, my first little baby, I smoked, and I smoked it. I shredded it. You guys know what it's like at the state fair? They do the turkey to go booth, where they literally have that like amazing juicy turkey sandwiches that are shredded. You should try them if you haven't. They're one of the best sandwiches there at the fair. So I found a recipe that duplicated that. So I had a crock pot of shredded turkey with the to-go, like that juicy smoked. Oh my God. That's my new favorite. I got to be honest with you. And then we just
you make sandwiches.
That's the plan today. Yes. Yeah.
Oh wow. Oh, that's today.
Well, you always see people making turkey sandwiches. So I said, hey, I'll beat you to it, and offered these guys the ability just to make a turkey sandwich right off the shoot.
Yeah.
Then I tried. Do you really want all my details? Because I got details. So I also did a baked turkey, about a 22-pound turkey. I make fresh herbs. Where the herbs I put into a butter and I put them under the skin, and it's a butter herbed turkey that turns out stupid. I mean, that's like ridiculous. And then I did one last one just for fun, just because didn't have anything else to do. I did a fried Creole turkey.
Come on. See, this is why I asked Nick. This is what happens every year.
Yeah.
Mr. Turkey Man. So no bacon involved this year.
No, I don't. I think they look really cool and they taste amazing, but people are confused. When you pull out the old bacon wrapped turkey breast and they look at it and go, well, "How do we eat that?" So it's like, and even then you slice it and the bacon comes off. So it was a very fun production, like when we did it the one year, but it.
I saw you pardoned one of your turkeys too.
Yeah. Did you like that?
Yeah.
Oh man, I was trying. These guys always want us to come up with, be funny or be creative, and I'm like,
you've been doing a lot of content lately. Haven't seen Andy. It's good.
Yeah, they're pushing me hard over here.
Yeah. This is the first time I've ever seen you with a hat on too.
Yeah, I could go without. It looks the same either way.
So you don't style that every day. It's just natural.
Well, yeah, it kind of goes like this. Yeah.
He just came out of bed. That's what it looks like every day. He's
Well,
perfect.
my God, I see. I told these guys I was joking. I said it was about midnight, and they're having dance contests in my kitchen, and I'm like, all right. I go, hey, I got to go make sure my charger plugs into my phone upstairs, and did the old Irish goodbye and left. And I don't know how late they stayed up, but my God, there was cans and plates and everywhere. So I just got up and started cleaning, and I'm like, might as well make some monkey bread. So I started making some monkey.
Well, Andy, we've been talking. We did a little. We're doing a little tribute to my father.
Oh, awesome!
On the, kind of, and with that, it was more about just real estate history and maybe what they went through. Your parents were both realtors as well, and it's just kind of the differences of what they were going through. And then we just started looking at different listings. I know we've done a lot of stuff on Zillow, and we pick a listing and we do that, but it's kind of like we don't know much about it. We kind of are thrown out on stage and trying to do it. And that's kind of what we've been. But we decided, hey, why don't we market a few of our own stuff? So I just did one that we had on the lake and kind of explain that. So I think we should bring one up for Andy here and let him sell us some of his
actually
listings.
hot and on the market or coming.
What's that?
You talking about?
Yours is coming, buddy, right here.
Oh, look at that. Jeez. That was back right after the hydro seeded the yard.
Oh.
Yeah, that's one of our new Ramblers. See, here's what's crazy. So we've had, with the financial woes of the marketplace, we've actually had with this builder here, we've had some really good luck with, properties that are under production where, let's say, the financing falls through because interest rates jumped up or whatever happened. And so then those houses were already under production. And so here's a great opportunity where you say, oh, there's nothing for sale. Well, I have for sale. I have 30 houses, Chris, that are under production right now that are available to buy. This is one of them up in Blaine. Nice walkout lot. You see all the trees in the back. It backs up to a farm behind there for now. I think it'll be developed eventually, but beautiful walkout lot. And it's got the screen porches in the back and there you go. The gourmet kitchens and all big windows for lots of light. And nice big open floor plan there. Yeah, fireplace. Yeah, you could add a Thanksgiving here pretty easy. Being the style of that house, you got the dining room, kitchen, and the great room all right together there.
I think what's kind of interesting on that one is that you actually did a screen porch that most people won't get. You don't get in new construction because builders are trying to hold off and not. I mean, they're not cheap to be able to build, and to be able to put that into it, you're taking away possible square footage. Is there basement finished?
It can at that price. I can now finish the basements. Yeah, prices have come down. It's great. It's like, so that was a perfect example of a house that was custom ordered and then had some features like they did not want the basement finished on that house, but we probably could we'd do it at our cost or less for sure.
Wow.
Yeah. No, that would be one where I know I've got one right across the street from that too. That's in the mid fives and ready to go.
Hey, Nick, go back to that listing. I want Andy to kind of talk about something that a lot of people talk about is that per square foot price and why are Ramblers more than like a 2-story?
Well, you can take the same foundation, you can take the same roof on the house. If you look at it from a cross section, right? And you basically just lift the same roof up, you can take advantage of the same foundation and you just add another floor. So when you add a 2-story or you go up on a house like that, and let's say that, you're well over $300 a square foot on your main level, that number got skewed a little bit too because of the porches and things like that. So it's because my average isn't normally that high. In that area, it's in the threes, kind of ish, mid 320s sometimes. But anyway, you get into where you finish the basement, also drops into the 200s per square foot if you count it, but appraisers don't count it. So the appraiser will appraise that house just fine without the basement finished versus the consumer will come in and say, I want the basement finished. I'll pay more for a finished basement. So
basically you have that basement that's sitting there that you could probably finish for $100 a square foot, whatever it is, and take that 373 down to 260.
Yeah, no, we can finish basements pretty reasonable. I mean, a basement normally for us is, it depends on how big it is. It's, 40, $50 a square foot,
So that's craziness.
Yeah. Well, but you have to be competitive, and the thing is that the crews are there and everybody says, oh, they're already there. It should be cheaper. Well, even than that, because up in the North Metro, a lot of people think they can finish their basement for 10 grand themselves. And then they realize, my God, the cabinet shop just spent me an $18,000 wet bar. It's ridiculous how expensive things really are.
Yeah.
When you add them up. So when you have a builder that'll finish a basement for you for $40,000, $50,000, or this guy's actually doing them for free. No joke. You order a new house because it takes a while. So they appreciate people ordering houses too. So these guys will do things like throw free basements in. Everybody's like, oh, how do you do a free basement? I go, I literally have a spreadsheet. And instead of charging you the $48,000, we don't. And it's like, so you literally get a free basement. But then you're also waiting, 12 months to build your house. And a lot of people with the vulnerability of markets, and they're like, well, rates could be higher, they could be lower. And so then, the key thing right now, Chris, is financing. If people need to attain financing, that's kind of where we start with people. And then the lenders of the builder are locking people out 360 days, no penalties. You can convert it to a different product. So it's crazy.
Yeah. How about the area that's in? Obviously, it's a new construction area.
Yeah.
What kind of neighborhood is it? Because I think that's what you have to do from a builder standpoint too, is you have to look at all these factors when you're developing that, let's just say that model. And, why did you put a screen porch on it versus finish in the basement? And why'd you do this and do that? And is it a price point that you wanted to get at? And typically it is because of a neighborhood.
Right. And that, and when you look at your competition too, that's the other thing that a lot of builders do. We'll do an analysis of the area and we'll just say, okay, what other builders are offering what at what price? And then how do we stick out, or how do we, make ourselves, the place that they come to? And with the empty nester crowd, it's kind of odd because it seems like there's those that want complete maintenance-free living townhouse, and they're okay with being attached. Then there's those that want detached, and then there's those that want detached, but they don't want any rules. And so then that's where we kind of slide in. But I'm telling you, not a lot of people want to retire and have a $600,000 budget for a house. A lot of people come to us and say, what can you do for $400, $450? And that's more common nowadays. And we can, it's just the houses get smaller, or you have to go a little farther out. And hey, if you're not commuting to work every day, as long as you're close to the amenities that are important to you, is it shopping? Is it restaurants? Is it a hospital? Do you have a clinic that you have to go to a couple times a week? Whatever it is, you just kind of do your circle around that now. A lot of times it's interesting too, Chris. It's the grandkids or the commute to the cabin that makes a big difference. That's why Blaine's a popular one there. A lot of people that go up that east side of Minnesota or straight north into, Mille Lacs or whatever, straight out of that area, 65 and, McGregor, wherever you go up north. I see my Alexandria crowd on the other side.
Last two houses I've sold, both $2.5 million. They're people they're part-time homes for them, but they have grandkids in the area and they want them to be able to hang out with them. And so
that's like crazy. The number one, they want to be near the kids.
Mm-hmm. We're seeing that too, Andy, with new construction. In our neighborhoods, it's crazy that, you think that people are they're downsizing, but what they're doing is they're just creating the lifestyle that they want. And what they want is they want people to come and visit them and to be able to stay with them. And so they're creating suites for like each kid, put it in pools and just making it comfortable for people to come.
We had, God, was it 2 years ago? I had a build and they took us all the way out to Buffalo, Minnesota. And this guy wanted to have the big Rambler and have a sport court behind the garage. And everybody's like, what are you, crazy? Nobody will ever buy this house. And he goes, oh, because I'm 60, I can't shoot baskets or hang out with my grandkids in the sport court or what? And I go, this guy's a genius. He literally, for about 50 grand, built this sport court. And guess where they always want to go now? They go to grandma and grandpa's because they have a sport court.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I sold. I sold to an empty nester people. It was almost 7,000 square foot home, that they weren't thinking. They were thinking a Rambler. Instead, they got a 7,000 square foot home with a big sport court, bedroom on the second story. They're very active people, but why? because of exactly what you just said. That's where they hang out, grandma and grandpa's, you know.
Well, that's, you think about like these big holidays like we just went through, and you think like, okay, so if I build a place and I want to be the entertainer and you like to do those things, I tell you what, I can help you design something that you'd like, because I live it, man. I'm like, okay, you need a spare bedroom for this, you need a spare bedroom in the bathrooms of this, what, and so I can lay all that out, make it comfortable. But again, it depends on what kind of a family they have. To your family, do they come into town and stay overnight for a couple days? Are they the kind of family just comes to visit for a couple hours? And and you design something that you can afford the taxes on. Because I'll tell you what, Chris, long after we're big income earners, we're like, oh yeah, we're powerful, we make all this money. You retire, and now you're at the mercy of whatever yields you get, off these investment funds and whatever else, or however you do it. And then all of a sudden, you have a slow year, and you still got those, $15,000 in taxes to pay, and it can get ugly. I mean, and the bigger the house, the more the heat,
Yeah, true.
How many houses do you do, Chris, where they look for alternative heat sources?
No, man, we just did a geothermal one.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, yeah. And that's it's probably what, 50 grand, I would say. And geothermal really matters on kind of what you have to work with and what kind of soils you have and all of that kind of stuff. It could be a lot more expensive. You could even get less, but just depends on soils, which I never really knew that. I thought, well, just dig a hole, they do it. But
Right.
where the water is, it's very interesting. So
It is, and it's like you look at areas like I was thinking about up in Alexandria where they have I joke because they don't have natural gas coming to the houses around roads are paved, sewer, of course you have your own well, but then there's high speed fiber optic internet, but then you have to go to propane for your heat.
yeah,
And I'm like, that's ridiculous to me. And so, I mean, I remember a couple years ago when propane, you used to have to give a kidney to get your propane tank filled. And, so now it's like for me up there, I'm looking at burning wood stoves. I'm looking at the different versions of solar. I'm looking at geothermal. I'm looking at every resource I can to figure out a way. Cause I'm thinking long term. Like, I'm like, okay, if I own this place for 30, God bless, 40, 50 years, Lord.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, who's kidding? I got about 8 years left. On a hard 8 years, and no, and you get out there to the cabin and you put into it what and then you don't have to worry about it or think about it. I think that's a lot of people how they buy houses. They look at the investment and they say, you know what, I want. Remember when we had the guys from what was it the company Sala? They came to the radio and they talked about that net zero house. You don't remember? Okay.
That's
so we had an architect
time
that
ago.
came in. Yeah, it was. I think the company was called Sala, Sala, and they did a net zero home, and it was about $2 million. And the guy goes, "Yeah, it's about a $400,000 house. There's that much into making this house a net zero. Yes, all green, no, impact on the local area, right? A net zero home, and it was really a cool idea. But it's like he said, he goes, "What are your values?" Because he said that's all that it comes down to. Is like, if you have that in your in you that you want to spend that much money to make a net zero house, but nobody else can afford that. So you understand that you're making an investment that your neighbors can't ever pay you for if they want to buy your house, or whoever.
Yeah. Yeah, but there's people for everything. There really is. It was funny last night at Thanksgiving. My brother-in-law was over, and he was talking. His kid plays in the juniors in hockey in Wisconsin, and in Chippewa Falls, it's called the Steel. And
Nice.
these teams are owned by people. And he said, yeah, he just found out that they were for sale. And he said that the owner is a lady in California, and they basically use them as tax write-offs. That these so it's just kind of neat.
That's crazy.
Or it's like, hey, I've got money. What?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you want to own a junior hockey team? Kind of cool.
It sounds cool. I own a hockey team in Wisconsin.
Yeah, I think you can buy one. I think it's $500,000 if you want to buy one, Andy.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
I'm good. Wow, look at that nice listing. Who's got that?
Andrew Praskey.
Rascally.
Praskely.
He's, yeah. No, that's a nice house too. That's my most popular plan, the Cape Cod. Ends up being about 2,960 square feet above ground, something like that. 4 bedrooms up, loft, laundry's up, lots of fancy woodwork, main floor office. You can see this. It's open stairs. It's a nice house. Nice windows, lots of tons of natural light. Kitchen's awesome too. So, and that house you can build in the high 6s as well. So, kind of cool. Yeah.
How many bedrooms up is there?
4.
4 bedrooms up.
I get a lot of buyers though nowadays too that are they want, a main floor office to turn into a bedroom or what, and you just add a closet or whatever. That's unbelievably popular now.
Mm-hmm. Getting a main floor room. It's not necessarily for the owner, but it's maybe for elderly parents.
Correct. Yeah, I see that a lot. Where you've got an environment where mom and dad are going to come visit for 2 months in the summer, and they want them to be comfortable because they respect their elders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's interesting, and you should talk about that because I was I got the honor to do a eulogy for my dad, and I was trying to come up with some ideas, and I was, I think once you live with a parent that maybe was having a hard time for a while, and you start thinking about, that they become a burden and a problem and blah, blah, blah. And so I started doing some research, and I was going to try to tie in like the way we deal here in America, how we deal with our elders. And so I went to my little dictionary here that just popped up on the screen and said, what is it that they do over there? And I mean, all the people live typically longer when they're doing it, but a lot of multi-generational living, isn't there, Nick?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, big time. And then it's not like the older people are paying too in the household. They're cooking, they're cleaning, they're babysitting, they're moving around. So they definitely pay their rent, so to speak.
You remember we had that guy on our show, wasn't it the millennial that was called the Blue Zones? He's a Twin Cities guy. He wrote the book for National Geographic. Maybe I paid more attention than you did. And came on and talked about all these areas where there's high concentrations of people that are over 100 years old. And they talked about cultures in Greece and Japan and all over the world. And then he goes, in the top 10 areas, there's not even a word that they can translate to the word retirement. And they keep adding value. And the success of these people was based on sense of community. I think they all consistently drank wine together. They had the parties together. The men would get together. The women would get together. A lot of them were very light on their meat eating. They would have lots of like regular food during the week, and then they'd have like goat day, and they'd grill a goat, and everybody would engorge in the meat to get the proteins and whatever. But there was one group out of California too that they all swim every day. I don't know why. It's just a community, a religious community. They swim and they're very active and they eat the granola lifestyle, and they actually are proving that it works because they're living longer. But anyway, it is interesting because you're right. There was a story within that story of an old man, and he was 105 years old or something like that. And they're showing him up on a fence, and they go, "Here was Giuseppe making the fence today," and he's up there like working on the fence. And they go, "Here he is tomorrow," and they show an operating room, and you're waiting for him to say, "So don't do this." And he goes, "He's the surgeon. He was a surgeon, and he was active. He still was building fences. He was over 100 years old, and this guy was still an active surgeon." I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
Giuseppe.
Yeah, well, and I think that was his name. I'm not sure. You might not want to write that down because I don't know how to spell it anyway. But he, you know what I'm saying? It was just crazy, and it's like so. And then they showed these older, especially like in Japan, they would show like mom would stay with the families, and they would take care of the children, the young kids, almost like an daycare in house. Yep. And then mom didn't have to worry about who was paying the bills or who was providing the food. She just took care of the family. It was really cool.
Why isn't that happening in the U.S.? Why doesn't that happen in the U.S.?
Because they want to take all of our money when we go to nursing homes. That's why.
Big business.
I think it's a big money grab. I really do. I think nursing homes are the biggest scam out there because what's a nursing home now? 12 to 15,000 a month for a person. I don't care how successful you are. You're not going to make it very long in a nursing home pulling that kind of cash out of your account before you're at the point of where you're broke.
But I think they've almost like made it say, hey, put them in here they'll be taken care of. You don't have to worry about anything. And do you think it's more like
instant offer? It's like an instant offer on your house. Just
Yeah.
instant solution for grandma.
Yeah, but do you think it's because we look at it like, hey, that's convenient now for us?
Yes.
Much easier for
100%.
us. Just get rid of them, throw them in that house, and or throw them in the old folks' place,
Yeah.
and then we could go live our lives.
Well, it depends. I mean, if you have somebody that's struggling with, health issues or mental illness or whatever, because it does happen a lot with, when you're going through phases of life where they kind of joke about having to have somebody on patrol because there's always the old guy that escapes and runs down the street in his underwear. And they're like, it's funny, but it's not funny. I mean, because could you imagine coming home from work and not knowing where your dad is or where your mom is? And you're like, oh my gosh, that would be hard. So I do understand that side of it. But I mean, if they're just old and there's nobody to take care of them, and I don't know. I had a couple, and I say this because I know they're out of state. Mom and dad lived here. The daughter lived out in New Jersey. The dad passes away and there's nobody here. I mean, the woman wouldn't even come out here to help her clean out the house. And she was old. She couldn't walk. She was in a wheelchair. Did you ever see that photo a couple years ago where I mowed the grass and it was like 3 feet long?
Yeah.
That was them. So we literally helped put this woman into a crate and they shipped her off to New Jersey. And when we followed up with them, I thought, they were going to buy her a house or something and nope. They put her right into a nursing home, took everything out here, sold everything. And I'm like, I felt so bad being part of that process because I felt like I shipped the lady off to her destiny of being locked up in like your dad said, the prison.
Yeah.
Chris, you had me laughing so hard in your eulogy. I swear to God, I dropped him off at the prison. And the funniest thing ever was you call him the cockroach. Oh my God. My wife and I were dying laughing. We were like, that is so funny though. Because I had a great.
But it was a compliment. I mean, he didn't think he was like, I don't think that's very nice. I'm like, I'm telling you, it's a compliment. But
Phil, you listen to me.
No. He affectionately called this McKenna Crossing the prison. But I remembered, I didn't say this, but I'd come in and he'd be in a wheelchair and I'd put him in and I'd just kind of push him in there. I said, he's your problem now. I'm out of here. And then everyone would laugh, and he would think that was just awesome.
Yeah. Well, they know. I mean, and that's I think the right approach to take to it. If you have a little fun and you go visit everybody and let them know they're important to you. And it's hard though. I mean, I can't imagine being on the other side of that equation where you're the one getting dropped off again. And you're like, damn, I've got 2, 3, 4 days where I'm not going to see anybody except for the nurse or the provider. And you watch TV and you listen to how everybody tells you how everything hurts and how sick they are. And I mean, it is kind of a weird thing though.
Yeah.
I think the main thing is because the way of life is much slower over there. Obviously in America, we're run, work. But I've seen 2 really good examples of it that you still got your privacy, but then you're still next to each other. One was my coach in Italy. His wife's grandfather built their home. And it was like a 4-story, looked like kind of like an apartment building, and on the top floor, I think they had the daughter lived up there, and then below that was the mother, and then the grandparents were on the second one, and they were on the bottom one. And then so like grandma would cook food, and then she had like a thing where you put it out the window, and it goes down to like the other rooms, so you don't have to see each other, right? And then it was just really interesting. Like they still kept their privacy, but they were all right next to each other if they needed anything, needed help. And of course, in Italy, they all eat usually lunch together and whatnot. But then also in Albania, where they had a whole business, they had a cafe on the top. Then they had like the son who was like 40 staying there. Below that, the grandparents were staying. Then below that was kind of like hotel rooms. And then below that, they even had like another like long-term stay type place.
Okay.
So it was all like intertwined together. And then, grandparents would take care of the young children. And it was just interesting. And they ran the cafe shop too. So it was like a whole operation going on in one building.
Yeah. That's I wish we, I think Minneapolis is getting more towards that, with their no zoning rules. You can kind of turn anything into anything you want now, but for a long time it wasn't that way. And so, a lot of the suburbs still have very stringent rules on, we want your house to look a certain way. We want it to, and they don't let you modify it or make a bedroom for grandma or anybody, Rooneyville will, but That's still in their works.
Rooneyville allows that. Yes.
Encourages.
Yes.
Yeah, I got a
Imagine
couple.
having an Italian grandmother making you a fresh meal every day. Forget about it.
I
I'd be
got
like looking my head up the elevator. Hey, you gonna hurry up? Hey, old lady, get moving.
Let me do a couple of these things so I can clip it easier for later in the week. I got 2 social media things, but it's going to be brought to you by Andy Prasky Preferred Home Team. So there's Andy.
Well, they said I could have 30 seconds on the show for a quick ad. Andy Prasky, Remax Advantage Plus, Andy@Prasky.com if you want to email us. Here's the thing, 22 years in the business, over 1,400 sales. I'd like to help you with your real estate needs. If that's buying, if that's selling, if that's building, whatever it is, give us a call, send us an email. Let's get you started on your real estate journey. I'd like to help you on the way. Lots of experience here, and I would like to put it to work for you. Andy Prasky, Remax Advantage Plus. Thanks for listening to the show.
The cars.
I still go back to your eulogy, man. I knew your dad, but I didn't know your dad. I loved his story too. I don't think we do that enough. You know, you go to some of these funerals and they don't talk about, you know, how cool these people were and where they came from. And this, to me, that story is fascinating. You know, how many kids there are, how many, you know, brothers and sisters they have. And I love those. Well, anyway, I'm a people person, but I love to hear that stuff.
Yeah, like I said there, I had a friend do it for his dad, and I was just when I was there, I said I have to do it. That's not the speech that you're looking forward to, and it's not very easy to get it out, but it was well worth it because I've heard a lot of people say a lot of really nice things about that, and it wasn't that it was great eulogy, but they got to know him a little more, and you understand. A little better because you don't hear that,
man. Connecting people together and understanding the reason behind the will behind the way, you know. And it's like what I kind of found interesting, you know, with that whole thing is that you're sharing stories that you normally don't share in a normal conversation. So you feel closer to the family, you feel whatever, and it's a nice way to kind of give everybody a hug. I think I really do. I love it. I remember my father-in-law when he passed away, Bob Steenerson. And I remember because it's hard for everybody, you know what I mean? And he was 55, for God's sakes. I mean, that's crazy. But anyway, we were sitting there and I remember listening to my mother-in-law say, he jokingly said, when I die, I want to get buried in my shooting shirt. It's got the big patch right here, you know, it's orange and whatever. And so I'm a 2X at best. 3X is pretty comfortable for me normally on shirts, and Bob's an XL. And Bob was like, she wouldn't bury him. She goes, I'm not going to bury him in a hunting shirt. It's just not going to happen. So he wanted open casket. He wanted this hunting shirt on. So I come up to do the eulogy and I do the old rip the jacket off and I'm wearing his hunting shirt. And I go, well, I said, I got to be honest with you, Betty, Bob won here a little bit, you know, and went through and talked. Oh my God. I just, because it's such a cool thing. I think, you know, it just, I don't know. Yeah, visit often, as I think you said, visit often, or your was it your niece that said, and I took that to heart. Visit often because you never know it's gonna be your last visit. Yeah. And amen. So true.
Yeah, I think I didn't say that. No way.
I'll tell you what, Chris. I actually, you know, I was confused because you were being sensitive, and I
know. It was weird.
Oh my God, weird. Lisa and I both loved it. You were so good.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Well, and then every time you coached us because you're a great public speaker, and we were sitting there and you go, well, now I've been told every time if I get a little whatever kicking in my emotions to drink water. And then so every time you drink water, we'd start crying.
Oh, oh wow. Jeez.
Oh my God. Yeah, I'm doing it right now. I totally was sobbing at that. Oh my God, you had me totally waterworks. Then your boy comes up there and had me dying laughing. His stories. And you know what I enjoyed more about anything between you and Nick is what you're doing right now. I was listening to Nick, but I was more having fun watching how you were responding to Nick's stories.
His were definitely colorful. but my dad would have loved it. Would have loved
Right.
it. Yeah.
That was what I was telling Lisa, my wife. So after the stories were over, we were kind of driving home, and I said, there was a whole not only just an experience being told by and Nick, you can hear us, so you can jump in any time, but there was actually there was a life lesson that was taught to him from his grandfather to be there, to be present at things, and to come all the way across the world from freaking Taiwan. Or were you in Taiwan, right?
Thailand.
Sorry, my bad. In Thailand, comes all the way home after having this wonderful experience, great vacation, all these cool things are happening, and you come home and and it's like you said, your grandpa would have been happy either way. But what I liked is that you came. That was cool, man.
Appreciate it.
And then the other thing was your little nephews or your cousins. Oh my God, they were laughing so hard at you, Nick. There was a whole row of them. I think it was Bruce. Are those all Bruce's kids?
Maria's, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and all these guys are, they look like they're anywhere from probably, 13 to 25, and they're all sitting there just going, they were dying at your stories. Oh my goodness. I was, like I said, I was observing everybody around the church, and I was listening to some of it, but oh my goodness, guys. I left there with the biggest smile. I felt great. Thank you, by the way, for both sharing your stories. It was fun.
That's good. All right, let's just knock out these last social media ones so I can clip it easier.
All right, guys.
Family, 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 family.
Not endorsed by Andy or Chris.
So we have to comment. Everything was going so nicely.
Realtor jail.
A lot of people refer to that whole that company as more like drinking the Kool-Aid. They do a lot of meetings. They do good stuff too, though. They really do.
Sure, they do.
So it's just
one thing that I think that is interesting about that company. I looked at that outfit years ago, and I did like the idea that it is agent centric. There's a lot of cool stuff they do there. The one thing that kept holding me back from ever joining something like that was the way that they pay you, and that was it. And they structure it kind of like a pyramid where you can make money, have somebody below you, just like EXP and just like Exit Realty. And there's like you recruit somebody in, and then you make money off of them. And there's so many people deep you can go. So what essentially the broker does is employs them, the real estate agents, as their recruiters, which is brilliant. I've actually stolen a page from their book on that, where the agents on my team do recruiting, and and lots of training. So when you look at those big companies, they do tons of training, and they do charge for their training a lot of times. So that's a profit center for them. But there's nothing wrong with that. I'd rather be in the loop and know what's going on than to be some dummy sitting in my house by myself and have nothing to do.
True. Very true.
Right.
If you ever feel like your job is pointless, just remember that realtors in major cities are going to drive to a 2.3 3-bedroom starter home that's been on the market for 126 days with one price cut of $15,000 with 8% mortgage rates, and do a 4-hour open house this weekend. I've had those open houses where you just know, you got to do it, you got to get it out there, but maybe it's not priced correctly or it's not staged right, and you're just, those are horrible. I won't do those anymore. Refuse. It's not just a waste of time. You're sitting there doing nothing. You just hurt everyone.
Well, this is what I tell everybody this. I go, so let's talk about it out loud. In theory, you have a sign in the front yard. You have your websites. You have all that information that's available. Somebody that's really interested will call, and they will say, hey, do you mind showing me this property with or without an agent? I think the information is going to still be gathered, right? They're still going to make that call or reach out. On the other hand, an open house, somebody's on their way to a wedding and they got a half hour to kill and they stop by an open house. Does it ever sell it? Sure, but the odds are so low. The idea is real estate agents want exposure. And so the idea that, if an open house can create exposure that other things can't, that's why people, let me put it this way. Do people do garage sales, or do they go to Marketplace for Facebook? They go to Marketplace. Yeah. And a lot, there are still the traditional garage sales, but what do those people do? This cup says 30 cents. I'll give you a nickel. And then they don't want to pay what you're offering. it's a different mentality when you have people coming to you. So I don't know.
Good point.
Sorry.
This is the very first of many articles you're going to see like this. Why in the world do you think JP Morgan is looking to buy $1 billion worth of single family homes? I'll tell you why. Because the market is showing signs of stabilization in mortgage rates and prices. Median prices were actually up 9.7% in Atlanta month over month. They were up 0.2% in Miami. So things are starting to change just a little bit. And look at what JP Morgan's doing right here, guys. Pay attention.
Yep. You never know. We'll see. Again, the market is not horrible. It's just not.
I'm pretty sure those guys at those big banks follow us on social media and they listen to us.
Totally.
I'm pretty sure. Allegedly.
They will view our podcast on Friday, talk about them on Monday, make their decisions on Tuesday. It's obvious.
It's pretty simple. It really is.
It works. It works. So.
I like that guy though. He's doing a lot of positive real estate content out there.
I like it too, man. Yeah, it's good. It's positive is always good because I mean, think about this. Everybody that's in housing is invested. They all are curious. I mean, I had that question to me yesterday several times. What's going on in the market? Is it horrible? Are we crashing? Are we whatever? And it's interesting listening to the conversations around the room, people who work different places. I got guys that are in commercial real estate that are going bananas right now. I got guys that are landscaping that already have half of next year already sold out. I mean, so it's not like this economy's stopping, guys. It's still rolling.
Yeah.
It's just different.
Beautiful. All right, awesome. I think we pieced together enough good content here. Make sure to give us a little review on the iTunes, Spotify. Posting 3 clips a week on the YouTube and the Facebook. Hey, last week, a lot of clips started making their ways. People in Rochester were sharing our stories about when we talked about Med City.
Yeah.
We're getting back in our groove and things are moving. So send in any questions you guys have, and we'll see you next week, right?
All right, guys.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Real Estate Radio Hour. Don't forget to visit our website, realestateradiohour.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, or your preferred podcast listening app. If you enjoyed today's episode, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes or sharing us with a friend. Until next time, stay awesome, Twin Cities.